Look, I'll be the first one to say that whenever it comes to the enthusiast gaming world, everyone is trying to be their own individual Frodo Baggins. We are all looking for the one ring, the one product, the one thing to rule them all. And whenever it comes to keyboards, there is one company, one brand that everyone has had on the top of their mind, and that's been Wooting. But today I bring you a competitor to the rule of Wooting, the Sikakey HM80. I'll put the measurements next to the keyboard, but this board comes in at 50 grams. Also didn't want to take the board apart, so using the picture on the website as a reference, here's a quick rundown of the internals. You can see that above the bottom housing, the board has a silicone bottom pad, followed by Poron, the PCB, the switch pad, more Poron, the aluminum alloy plate, and then the top housing at the top. Honestly, for the size of the 80% layout at 50 grams, it feels pretty light and doesn't have that heavier custom build quality, so it does feel a little cheap whenever you're holding it and you're using the board. And the design is going to be a hit or a miss for some, but for me, I've been using this at work, and it's been the perfect conversation piece since people think I'm using a 30-year-old retro keyboard. Even though the HM80 looks like it's 30 years old, it's essentially the equivalent of a sleeper car on the road. It doesn't look like much, but under the hood, this board is absolutely cooking. With a combination of the PBT keycaps and the Gateron Jade Pros, the board has an incredible stock typing feel and sound out of the box and a comfortable typing angle for work and gaming sessions. Here's a quick sound comparison between the two. While Sikakey sent this board out for review, Gateron also sent me the newest Jade Switches, the gaming switches, pros, and maxes. Whether you've been in the scene for a long time or not, 10 plus years ago, before we started getting hundreds of different mechanical switches, originally there were 3 popular switches. Very simple. They were red, brown, and blue. Wasn't hard to figure out which one you wanted to use. The gaming switches and pro switches remind me of those old mechanical switches in the past. The gaming switch are a lot like the old reds, very linear, no extra tactile feel that's intended to maximize the speed that you can actuate the key. And I mean, it performs very, very well for gaming, and it makes sense that they would call this the gaming switch. Next, we have the pros. The pros are very similar to what the browns were in the past. It's still intended to maximize the speed that you can actuate the key, but adds a little bit more tactility to the actuation of the key to feel and sound better when typing. If you're wanting a gaming switch, you would tend to focus on the red switches. You would go with gaming. If you're looking for, hey, I'm wanting gaming, but I also want a little more of a typing feel, then go with the pros. I think it gives you both. It gives you a good solid typing feel, but then you also get to have a very good switch whenever it comes to gaming. The Maxes, though, feel completely different to me. To me, the Max is similar to the original Jade Switch, not the gaming switches, but the one before that, the original Jades. But they made it completely clear in order to maximize the RGB effect for those looking for that aesthetic. I will say in the Wooting with putting keycaps and the Max, this board looks insane. So if you are looking for an RGB aesthetic, if you're only looking for the aesthetic, I would use the Maxes. However, the one thing that I would say is compared to the other two, the way that they use the plastic on the Switch, I mean, it got a little bit better with time. You can't really feel it whenever you have full actuation of the Switch, but whenever you use little actuations into the Switch, it's like the plastic, as you're pushing it down, it feels like there's just extra friction that as you're pushing the switch, it feels like it's rubbing up against each other and it feels like it would get stuck. If it was mechanical, I think it would be less noticeable since you tend to have a full actuation of the switch, but since it's magnetic, when you actuate the switch with some smaller movements, I think it is more noticeable. It's not terrible and it didn't affect my gameplay, but it's definitely something I noticed whenever I did play. With the HM80 using the Pro Switches, I always set the actuation for the spacebar to a higher setting to ensure that I don't accidentally hit the spacebar and then drop all the other keys to like 1 millimeter. Again, the key travel feels really smooth, the force to actuate is light, and overall the pros feel incredible for both typing and gaming. Now when it comes to the HM80, the performance is extremely solid. It offers native 8K polling, better adjustable travel ranges for the switches compared to the Wooting. The backlight isn't as strong with the Pro Switches, but if that's what you're looking for, you can pick up the Max Switches to make the RGB brighter. One thing I would mention, the backlight isn't as strong. If you're looking for that, again, you can change the switches, you can change the caps. You can make it to where you can get more light out of the board. But performance-wise, for the price, is extremely solid. Performance-wise, I have had zero issues with this board. It's performed a little bit better than the Wooting, and again, for half the price, it performs incredibly well. So with that being said, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comment section down below, and I will catch you all next time. Start a riot.